Okay, hi everyone. So in this video, in revision video, I'm going to look at weather systems. So just what we were looking at in class. Okay, so I'll just really kind of go through stuff quite fast. So I suppose what forms our weather from day to day? Really a lot of it is down to the atmospheric pressure. Now we've looked at this a lot in class. What is atmospheric pressure? It's the pressure and the weight of the atmosphere around us. And the atmosphere is the air that's pressing down on us. Okay, so it's the weight of the air. And if you look at the picture there, the air has molecules, okay, the molecules of air. And as you can see, there's loads of little molecules of air pressing down on the earth. So it's heavier down close to us, and then it gets lighter as you rise upwards. And the weight of, like, air, the molecules in the air just means the amount of oxygen and nitrogen and stuff inside in the air. So air can be heavy and it can press down on us, or air can be light and it can rise. So the weight of the air presses down on us, and like I said, it can be heavy pressing down on us, or it can be light. So again, what is air pressure? It's the weight of the air pressing down on us. So we call it atmospheric pressure. You can also call it air pressure. So air pressure is greatest at the surface of the earth where we are, because it's caused by the atmosphere pressing down on top of us. Okay? So I hope that helps. So the closer you are to sea level, to the surface of the earth where we are living, the higher the air pressure pressing down on us. The higher up you go, the further up into the atmosphere you go, up past the mountains into the clouds, the lower the air pressure. Alright, hope that helps. So high pressure, down close to us, heavy, weight air is heavy. The further up you go, the air rises, it gets lighter, low atmospheric pressure. Alright? Okay, so I'll go to that at a later stage. So then we moved on, we learned about an air mass. So an air mass is a body of air. So it's a big movement of air that moves around the earth. Now we know the air is constantly surrounding us, otherwise we wouldn't be able to breathe. So this air mass is a body of air that moves around the earth. And this body of air could be cold or it could be warm. Okay? And in that air mass, in that body of air, the temperature could be cold, it could have low levels of moisture, and it could have heavy atmospheric pressure. The weight of the air could be heavy. Whereas in a warm air mass, the temperatures could be warm, the moisture is high, because warm air can hold a lot of moisture, and the atmospheric pressure would be low. So that's all that an air mass is. It's a big body of air that moves around the earth, and it brings with it temperatures, which could be cold or hot. It brings with it moisture levels, which could be low or high, and it brings with it either heavy or low atmospheric pressure. So that just influences our weather. Now, it's the boundary where the cold air mass meets the warm air mass, where the two of them meet. They don't mix well, so they bring weather fronts. Okay, the point where a cold air mass meets a warm air mass is called a front, and where the two of them meet at the front, they don't mix well, so that brings bad weather. Okay, there's loads of different types of air masses that influence Ireland. You have an Arctic air mass that would bring cold, wet weather. Okay, it could bring snow even. Polar maritime, cold, wet, because it's coming over the sea. So it's going to bring in moisture. As the air and the winds blow over the sea on their way down to Ireland, they're going to pick up moisture from the sea. So they're going to bring moisture, sometimes even snow, and they're going to bring cold conditions because they're coming from the poles. Tropical maritime, that's coming from the sea. So that's going to bring moisture as the air blows over the sea. But it's going to bring warmer weather because it's coming from the tropics. Anything coming from the continent is going to be dry air. So that's going to bring dry conditions. But it's also going to be, it depends if it's coming from the polar continental, it's going to be cold. Tropical continental will be warm. So the most common air mass that comes in over Ireland is actually the polar maritime. Okay, so that brings wet and cooler conditions. Okay, that's fine. You know what an air mass is. So like I just told you, an air mass is a large body of air that moves around. When two air masses meet, the boundary between the two of them is called a front. They don't mix well. So a front can be warm or cold. So let's have a look at them. So a cold front, if we have a cold front over Ireland, that means that we had, before the front arrived, we had a warm air mass over us, okay? That gave us warm temperatures, it was holding onto the moisture, and the atmospheric pressure was low. We were grand, we were happy out. All of a sudden a cold air mass comes in over Ireland to replace the warm air mass. And the cold air pushes the warm air mass upwards and forces it to rise. And we know that when warm air rises, it gets lighter, but it cools. And warm air, when it cools, it can't hold the water vapour anymore. If the warm air can stay close to the surface, to the ground, it's excellent at holding water vapour. But as the warm air rises and gets lighter, it gets cooler and it can't hold water vapour. So the water vapour condenses back from a gas into a liquid, into water droplets which make up a cloud, which fall as rain. So rain will fall all along the front, which is the boundary between where the cold and warm air mass meet. That could be all along the west coast of Ireland, along the east coast, wherever. Okay, so it's not good weather. That's the symbol for the cold front, if you see it in a weather map. So it's the blue triangles. Okay, the warm front then is very similar. Say we have a cold air mass over Ireland. We have cold temperatures, we have heavy atmospheric pressure, and it can't really hold the water vapour, so you've got a lot of moisture there. The warm air comes in over Ireland to replace the cold air mass. The warm air is actually lighter, so it's forced to rise over the cold air. As the warm air rises, it gets lighter, it gets cooler, and it can't hold the water vapour. Okay, so the water vapour condenses into tiny water droplets which make up a cloud, so you get continuous heavy rain over the front between the warm and the cold air. So that's the symbol then for the warm front, the semicircles in the red. So whether you get a warm front or a cold front, it's not good weather, okay, for any region. Okay, so I hope I explained that okay. Just moving on, I'm skipping past them now. Right, weather maps. If you're looking at weather maps, how do you know what all these different lines and these different symbols mean? So if you're looking at these lines on a weather map, and they look like the contour lines on an ordnance survey map, they look exactly like them. These particular lines on the weather map, if you look at them, right, they've got big numbers written along them. They are lines in a weather map showing you what the atmospheric pressure is. So they're isobars. How I know they're isobars is a couple of things. They've got big numbers written along them. If I follow the lines, it tells me 1036, 1032, 1028, 1024, etc. So they show me areas of equal atmospheric pressure. So like over Ireland now, I can see that the atmospheric pressure is 1032. Because I'm literally just looking over Ireland and I'm following the line. So that means the atmospheric pressure over Ireland is 1032 millibars. That means the atmospheric pressure is high. Another way I can also tell that it's atmospheric pressure is if I just look to the left of Ireland, I see H written down. H tells me high atmospheric pressure. Okay, so that tells me the atmospheric pressure. So lines in the weather map showing you atmospheric pressure over an area are isobars. Okay. Atmospheric pressure is measured in millibars. The higher the number, the higher the pressure. The lower number, the lower the atmospheric pressure. If you get a weather map that shows you lines and it says millimeters on it, that tells you that those lines on the weather map are isoyets. That's just the name called to the lines on the weather map showing you places of equal rainfall. So the weather forecast presenter will show you, this is a weather map showing you places of the rainfall, the amount of rain that fell this year or last month or yesterday or last weekend. Okay, so they will tell you, this is a weather map showing you places of equal rainfall. So we measure rainfall in millimeters. How much millimeters, how many millimeters of rain fell yesterday? Okay, so those lines in the weather map showing places of equal rainfall are called isoyets. If the weather forecast presenter shows you a weather map, weather chart, showing you the amount of sunshine that shone yesterday in Ireland, last weekend, last month, last year, the sunshine, the lines on the weather map showing you the sunshine are called isohels, and we measure sunshine in hours. Okay, and finally then, if the weather forecast presenter is showing you a weather map with lines showing you the temperature, we call those lines showing you the temperature isotherms. Isotherms. Okay, so they just tell us the temperature. Temperature is measured in degrees Celsius. Okay, very quickly then, what is a depression? A depression is bad weather. A depression is bad weather that comes over an area when a cold and a warm front meet, or when cold and warm air meet. It's bad, okay? So it brings bad weather. Okay, so a depression is bad weather. A depression is an area of low pressure. Look at the center of the depression here. A couple of things stand out. One, all of the isobars, which show me the atmospheric pressure, are very close together. So that indicates low pressure. The lower the pressure, the bad weather you're going to get. If you get high pressure, you get good weather. But with a depression, the isobars are spaced closely together, so you're going to get bad weather. Okay? So you've low pressure, isobars are spaced closely together. At the center of the depression is where the lowest of the pressure, where the pressure is at its lowest. That indicates that there's going to be strong winds. So if I happen to be located at the center of the depression, I get strongest of the winds there. The strong winds blow towards the center of the depression in an anti-clockwise direction. Okay? Another thing that happens with a depression is the air rises at the center of the depression. The air is light and it rises. As the air rises, it gets colder. Okay, and it can't hold the water vapor. So water vapor condenses back into tiny liquid water droplets which form a cloud. So you get lots of cloud forming during a depression. And the third thing that happens during a depression is because you get lots of clouds forming, the clouds eventually become too heavy with the water droplets and they burst and they fall as precipitation. And the precipitation or rain that we get with a depression is called cyclonic rain. Okay, so remember 3 things you get with a depression. You get strong winds blowing towards the center of the depression. You get lots of cloud forming because the light air rises from the center of the depression, gets cooler, can't hold water vapor, forms lots of cloud. And the third thing you get is lots of precipitation because the cloud will burst with rain. So that's a depression. Remember, low pressure, strong winds, lots of cloud, lots of rain. Okay, so you've all that in your notes. We get depressions a lot over Ireland because we get cold and we get warm fronts meeting. Okay, that's how you can tell a depression on a weather map. You see all the clouds and they're swirling in an anti-clockwise direction. An anticyclone is the exact opposite. Okay, sorry, now I'll just zoom into this picture here. So an anticyclone is associated with high pressure, good weather. Okay, as you can see, the isobars are spaced widely apart. So at a quick glance at a weather map, if the isobars are spaced widely apart, that indicates high pressure. That's good weather. High pressure means the air is heavy. Heavy air presses down and it actually starts to get warmer. It's cold initially, but it presses down and it starts to get warmer. It keeps the air pressing down on the earth. So as it stays close to the earth, it heats up and it gets warm. Okay? And the warm air can hold the water vapor. Okay? So if you get any winds at all, they're very light, but you get little or no winds. Any winds that are present blow from the center out. They blow out from the center of the depression in a clockwise direction. Because the air stays close to the surface of the earth and it stays warm, it holds onto the water vapor, so very little cloud forms. And because very little cloud forms, you get very little precipitation, so you get dry, settled, calm conditions. So remember, with an anticyclone, the pressure is high. You get little or no winds. If there is any winds, they blow from the centre out and they blow in a clockwise direction. Very little cloud forms because it's holding onto the water vapour, and very dry, settled, calm conditions. So that's an anticyclone. Okay, so basically the area in a satellite image over Ireland or over the UK or over Europe will be clear. You won't see cloud cover. All right, hope that helps.